Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. I have been really busy on a couple of fronts, mostly with work, but also simultaneously I was moving around. I was in Ottawa, another city, coming back and forth, trying to juggle composing for a short film, which is actually a little longer than short. Normally, short is like 8 minutes. I think this will come at like 22 ish. Also, on this channel, I think you guys know I review a lot of libraries because I get a lot of them. People want to put them on the channel. They want me to say something so that other people know about them and everything. So I find that when it actually comes time to compose, I gravitate toward tools that I get that are really easy to use and really easy to get good results from quickly. And because of all the messiness around my kind of professional work on the channel, moving around, COVID, everything, I was really just reaching for things that I could get great results from. I didn't have time to like experiment and everything. And I found that, going through all the sample libraries I have, there's a couple that I just keep coming back to because I know that they're going to give me what I need based on the demands of the film or the project. In this case, the last time I think I was talking to you guys about a short film that I'd done, it was a kind of more of a jazz kind of film. So the libraries were, kind of like Project Sam and horns and those kind of things. This one was more kind of back to kind of modern stuff, contemporary kind of film scoring. So we had a lot of pads and drones and strings and those kind of things. So again, I just found myself reaching for like these tools over and over other ones that might be better, but for whatever reason, I couldn't, I couldn't really get what I needed out of them really quickly. So what I wanted to do is just show you the 5 tools that I was going through over and over. These are not, no one has sent me these, and please talk about them or anything like that. These are just genuinely the things that I use and loved and needed on this project. So the first one of 5 is a tool called Straylight. Now, I talked about Straylight on my channel some time ago. I continue to come back to this thing because of how good it sounds and because of how easy it is to use. Since I did the video of Straylight by Native Instruments, by the way, they've updated Contact to allow you to add your own samples into this thing. It's essentially a grain synthesizer, but really, I mean, I think what I love about this thing is just being able to get good results out of the presets and tweak them and not really have to input my own things and record something. I just, I want to land on something and get great sounds immediately. So here it is in Contact. Here's the UI. Obviously, this is a shot of Oregon right now. No, it's not funny, but it is very eerie to look at this. I know they're going for like a Blade Runner 2049 feel, but right now, September 13th, it's really interesting to see this orange hue across the screen. So really quickly, I'm going to go through the 5 tools and the things I like about them really quick here, but you get your snapshots. This is an old way to classify and rank things here based on the type, pitch, character, mood, and then you get the presets. So of course, if I deselect everything, we get type, atmosphere, pad, lead, blah, 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 or you can just jump in with character or mood and go from there. I was using a lot of stuff that was very subby, very kind of suspenseful and disturbing. So I found myself just clicking these guys and, I'd land on stuff like this, for example, like Wormhole. Of course, again, go back and watch the video that I did on Straylight because it was a bit more in depth. But this is one of those things that just, if the director or producer is saying, can you please, do some underscoring or make something really simple under this that has to be kind of strange or weird and wonderful over any other tool that I have, and there's a lot that can do kind of Straylight stuff, this is the one to me that sounds the best for right now. So highly, highly recommend it. Let's move on to the next library here, which is a tool called Arcus. And this one comes from Orchestral Tools, which is kind of surprising because these guys are known for like huge, expansive, big, in-your-face libraries like the Arc series, right? One of my favorite things about the Metropolis Arc series, in fact, I just noticed now it's called Arcus or Arcus, and perhaps it's because there's a kind of connection to the Arc series. One of my favorite things about the Arc series, in addition to having these big, bold kind of articulations of strings or whatever, if you dug deep enough, you would find these little kind of motion pad pulsy things that weren't really related to the kind of the heritage of the Arc series, big bad kind of sounds. They were more delicate, and they were always some of my favorite things about those libraries. It seems that Orchestral Tools has kind of noticed that, and they put everything dreamy and delicate and underscorey into this tool, which I didn't get to talk about a while ago, but I have used it a lot, and I've used it all over this new thing that I scored for. Again, the UI here is a little big for me, but anyway, you have a couple different layers, and you can turn the LFO animation on and off depending on your CPU kind of issues, your CPU budget. But again, you have motions, pads, subs, swells, textures. Let's just go through a couple of them, holding our hands down on the keyboard and doing a little bit of automation, and you can hear right away how, I hate to use the word inspiring because that's used all over marketing, but it really is pretty special. So let me just pick something here. I really like the ones that are string oriented. They just sound great. I'm not doing a great job of transitioning between notes there, but I just want you to hear really quickly what this thing can do. Also, I would love it if Contact fixed this if you two-finger scrolled inside the context of a window and it didn't just bring the whole thing down. It just, brought down whatever you're kind of working on. Let's try another couple things here. Just beautiful. So this is something I use a lot. This is maybe happening under a scene with nothing else in it. It's just like a put your hands on some really nice chords and then get the paycheck. So my favorite kind of tools, things that make it sound like people can't believe that one guy in his room on a Mac could kind of come up with that. So let's keep moving here to another library that I really like. And typically, I kind of lean on orchestral tools for my strings. People have their kind of bread and butter, right? When it comes to strings, I always use this library or whatever. I was really impressed with this one, Aria or Aria by Audio Imperia, and I usually stay away from this company and Project Sam just because, nothing bad, but just because they make a lot of hybrid scoring stuff, and I don't really do a lot of that kind of big, intense stuff. It's fun to play with, but I don't have any actual professional applications for it in the music that I score. So when they came out with this one, and Native had a deal with them recently, it might still be on, in fact. I was really impressed with the kind of, not subtlety, but it was kind of a more delicate kind of string sound. Obviously you've got, I think more than just strings, you've got pads and other things in here. I might be wrong. It might be just just ensemble strings. So it is just strings. But one of my favorite things about this tool is you've got basic and advanced. If you go to the advanced panel, you get this really handy sample, I think it's sample start feature. And if you push this all the way over here, this is the difference between your sample starting almost really quickly. When you do an interval, you go from note to note. So I'm just going to go from middle C here to the C at the octave up from that. That might be what you want, but if you go down here, you can basically delay the start time of the next sample, leading, I think, to a much more natural transition. Now that might be a little bit slow for you. So I leave it somewhere here in the middle at like 12 o'clock. And then when you play with your chords, so I'm using a little bit of the sustain pedal to get me over the humps of those transitions, but it's very smooth. And I was just really impressed with this feature, which is kind of like, it's subtle. They're not like pushing this, with a big knob in the middle. But I haven't been able to find this really in a lot of other libraries. And one of the things I hate doing is going in with the pencil tools and kind of adjusting the crossfades between things. So when you know the chords that you want to play and you just want to get ideas out really quickly, but you also want to record it and have that be the final thing, this sample start thing I think is really, really good. In addition to that tool, because it's an expensive library, so don't just buy it for that. Like the strings do sound really beautiful. I'm going to butcher something here, but so just really buttery and smooth. And obviously I'm not actually composing right now. I'm just giving you a feel for how the strings move around and behave. I was really impressed with this start sample feature, and it was really handy for what I was using and composing. So let's keep going here to another library. This is now going over to Spitfire. And this one is called, if it wants to load, here we go, Symphonic Motion. So I've had this one for a little while. I haven't had a chance to play around with it too much, but when I needed it, going back to the thing, when I needed something that would just get me over the hump of like, oh, how do I do this? I was able to put my hands down and get really great sounds out of this library. This reminds me a lot of Sonokinetic's Ostinato series, where they have strings and woodwinds, and they might have brass, but it's a bit more elaborate. And I have to say, I've been kind of a laggard with the whole, I'm not sure if it's Bleeding Fingers or whoever does their UIs here. I prefer the Kontakt kind of world. But I have to say, I was really impressed with the way this whole thing works. So if you're unfamiliar, you go to the drop down, you've got, again, some modifiers, right, to help you kind of craft your sound and find it. And then you have these little play buttons. No more than like 2 or 3 seconds, and you can see, and by the way, this is what I love, 2-finger scrolling, right? And now it doesn't bring the whole thing down, so that's wonderful. So let's say we just chose that. We click on it. It does take a moment, I find, which is like, it is what it is. And then you have this section here, and it shows you where all the strings are. And again, 2-finger scrolling on this menu. It's wonderful. It shows you where all of your articulations are and the kind of time value associated with them, so you can put your hand down. So you're obviously going to want to do this with a metronome, right? But the idea is you have these kind of polyrhythms forming as you play. And again, a metronome is kind of key here. I'm going to butcher things, but this wheel down. I wonder if that does anything. And if I decide that I want some other rhythmic texture element in there, I can just, reassign the pegs on this board and get something really kind of, sounding pretty good really quickly. Let's see what this sounds like. Rough triplets. And of course you can go in here and you can change the amount of, they've got tape saturation, which I usually like to add a little bit on when I'm doing my strings. But here's another example of a pretty varied articulation-wise kind of palette. So I needed a couple of cues that kind of move things along from scene to scene, and it was really nice to just be able to throw something under here that didn't sound too kind of machine gun and choppy. I'd love to go back and play you all the cues, but the film is being produced and everything, so I can't really do that right now. But yeah, a nice change from Spitfire. We know they do the Evo series really well. This is kind of like Evo, but with a bit more definition. One of the things that I've faulted or criticized Spitfire for in the past is having libraries that are really good for like slow, drony things, but when you want that crispness, when you want that kind of sinewy, very attack-heavy stuff, it's hard to find it. And this library, I feel like, is a kind of nice step toward getting really well-defined, good-sounding results that aren't just like woozy kind of pad-like strings, flautando articulations, that kind of thing. So let's wrap up here with the last library, and this is kind of like an old favorite for me. I use pianos a lot in what I compose and what I do. And there's two kinds of pianos, I feel. There's your prepared pianos, so your John Cagey kind of felty, Johann Johannesburg, Olafur Arnold, Niels Fromm kind of pianos where you hear things creaking and moving around. And then you have your kind of like, you've got your professional concert pianos. And for that, I would probably use Hammersmith by Sonic Couture. It's still a library that I really love and know very well and use. It's pretty heavy on the CPU. But when you want that prepared piano, when you want something with a bit more emotion, I always go for Unicorda. I know Noir came out. I did a video for Noir. I still love it, but there's just something about this friggin' piano here. So let me just go over and show you. If you don't know, this is, this is like Niels Fromm Says. It's a track, by the way. Just incredible human sounding piano. I'm just going to get some things ready here. Let's get the overtones going. Let's get... I love this. Do I love that? Is that what I want? Let me just turn my computer up here to see if I can hear things. Here we go. This is what I love, this ambience feature. Just having that in the background. I know it's really simple, but you can also turn on the sound of the piano player, which is really cool. Again, which I love. So if I'm not doing anything, let's see if you hear anyone moving around. So you can hear like shifting in his chair and things like that. So you can also do some fun stuff here, sound designy stuff. I put reverse on. Let me turn it up. I feel like I'm doing math in front of the class when I'm like creating stuff and I get a little nervous. You can also turn the fabric on, which is cool. So this is what's in between, I think, the hammers. So in this case, I'm going to turn this up. Let me turn the pianist down. So we have felt, cotton, silk, curtain, my favorite, which is felt, leather, pleather. So let's go back to felt, and you also have the mechanical noise, which you can turn on and off. And you got the pedal too, so you can kind of turn all this stuff up, and then when you hit the pedal, you get the kind of sympathetic vibrations and all the stuff that kind of happens. Hear that? Like that kind of... some really beautiful reverbs here too. And then turning reverbs on with the reverse, I feel like just gives it an extra kind of layer of etherealness. effects, you've got even more stuff. You've got an EQ here. You can choose the reverb. We're going for, it looks like an EMT 140 plate, but you've got a couple other settings here, I believe. Mystique. Looks like a little bit of delay added in there too. So anyway, 5 tools, Fairlight, Arcus, Aria, Symphonic Motions, and Unicorda that I just reached for and gravitated toward to get me really good results that I think sound really good and that I'm very happy with. Obviously, you have to layer, you have to mix, you have to add stuff. It can't just be everything on its own. But I'm wondering if you guys have go-to things, if you have go-to instruments or things like that. Let me know what they are. Things change, right? Sometimes you might be hanging out in one world or another. Based on everything that you've seen here too, is there something that I am not aware of that I would love based on what you've seen? Please recommend some libraries. I always think I know everything that's out there, but that is clearly not the case because there just is not enough time in the day. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Top 5 tools for now. And yeah, take care.